Hey, before the video starts, I just want to give a shout out to my boy TypeSad. He's a supporter on Patreon. Hit that tier list. So instead of putting you at the end of the video like everyone else does, I'm going to put you at the beginning. So if you want your credits in the video for next month, Patreon in the description. Thank you to my boy TypeSad. Now, it's on with the video. Yo, what's up guys, the Insane Game Freak here. So, more Switch conversation, because why the fuck not? That's what we do here. It's Nintendo days until March 3rd, and we're going to keep talking about Nintendo because we crazy up here, boy. Woo! PAX South is currently going on, so there'll be a lot more hands-on impressions of non-necessarily media guys, some more like regular YouTubers who get their hands on the console and really give their thoughts and impressions. And I'm curious to see how this will keep rolling out, because we kind of got the first set of impressions during the media events, and it seems to and it's like I said, they're gonna be putting the Switch on a tour consistently throughout the next few weeks until we hit launch and even a little bit after launch. So with all this talk of the Switch, there's this one conversation I've been hearing a lot of that I don't necessarily agree with. A lot of people believe that the Switch needs third party, but I don't think people are talking about the right third party. A lot of people think if we get the announcement for Call of Duty and Assassin's Creed and we don't get announcements for those games on the Switch, then they'll be dead in the water. And I don't necessarily think that's the case, because as much as the Vita is dead by like normal gamer standards, the console is still being sold and still has games coming out for it, surprisingly enough. A lot of people wouldn't believe this because the Vita gets its ass whooped by the 3DS, but if we had to be fair, if I'm right, I'm pretty sure the Vita has sold more than the Wii U currently. I have VG charts up because I was looking up other things, but I was just curious. I was pretty sure the Vita has more than the Wii U right now in terms of overall sales, which isn't too shocking, all things considered. It was just something that was on my mind. Give me 1 second. I just wanted to make sure. Yeah, the Wii U's the PS Vita's slightly above the Wii U, and in the PS Vita it's not, granted, it's not that much of a difference, but the point I'm saying is the Vita has gotten more support than the Wii U. And the point I'm trying to make with that is that the Vita, what do you think the Vita is currently surviving on? Because the Vita still has games coming out this year. It has it's not like a lot, but it's like around Wii U tier string of games. Like I would say around one a month, if that, somewhere around that kind of tier. And some of you would ask, well, what's keeping the Vita alive? It's not Western third party, because Western third party let that console within the first 2 years, I think. It was the first 2 years, I think, the Western third party, Western support in general, honestly, probably 2 or 3 years into the Vita's lifespan, they just said, fuck it, I'm done. You know what the Vita currently survives on? Japanese third party. And a lot of people are sitting here talking about Rocket League and Respawn and Borderlands, talking about the current issues with those, which isn't as much of an issue as they're making it sound like. Because honestly, the only thing that really what it amounts to for a lot of those situations is, other than the whole conversation stop, it's you need to make money, and then we'll see how far our support goes. That's literally what it boils down to, which has always been the situation with Nintendo and third party in general. People are sitting there like, why are we having the same situation happen again? Because Nintendo will always, even if Nintendo came out with a PlayStation 4-like console, Nintendo would always have that problem because Western third party cares about money. And they think, and no matter how you look at it, even with the Wii, everything's a motherfucking risk. Because even though the Wii got its variations of certain franchises, it still didn't get all the third-party support it could have gotten. It ain't like you couldn't have modified games to work on it. I mean, Activision was willing to modify, what was that? I don't know how many Call of Duties. So it wasn't that. It boils down to a money thing. You need to sell consoles before we dedicate. But you know who seem to be going all in, because they realize that this shit is going to take off well somewhere. And if there's anywhere that the Switch will take off well, it's going to be Japan. And I think one of the quotes from the Disgaea 5, one of the producers on that game, when we were talking about the complete edition coming to the Switch, it was a line from him, and actually probably from, is that Koei Tecmo? Who does? Yeah, it has to be Koei Tecmo who does Dragon Quest Heroes 1 and 2. When they were talking about the things that were different between the Switch version and the other versions, it's like, look, at least for the Disgaea comic, it was like, we wanted to put this game on Vita. That's the first. Think about it. This guy had just came out, if I recall, like a few months ago, and he's talking about putting the game on Vita, a console that hasn't really gotten any real boost in sales since it came out, and he was talking about putting the game on that console. And there's a reason why, because the Vita still sells, and it's because, and if you look at the Vita's third party, what the games it is getting, they're all Japanese games. And the thing he continues to say in his quote is that we're going to put it on Vita, but we would have to make compromises to the gameplay in order to put it on the Vita. With the Switch, we don't have to. See, because handhelds are bigger in Japan, the Japanese developers are like, yeah, I don't really see your problem throwing that on the Switch, because for the Switch, it's nowhere near as a risk as people think it is. Because they're a lot more confident in the console selling well in Japan, which is true. That's why you think about it. Think about it. The definitive editions of games that we are getting, for the most part, are coming from Japanese developers. Almost all the main games we're getting are from Japanese developers, and they're games that would totally make sense on the console. Capcom, Sega, I never know how to pronounce the full name of this guy's developer. I want to just say NIS. That's what I know him as anyway, because of anime reasons. Fucking Bandai. CyberConnect 2, because we're getting Dragon Ball Z games. And some of you would say, well, those games are fine and cool, but all those games are niche as fuck, and those aren't going to sell consoles. Yeah, but we're not in the period of going from, like, the Wii U to PlayStation 4 status. We're in the game of going from, like, Wii U to GameCube status at this point. That's what we fucking need. We need GameCube status. We're not going GameCube or N64 status. That's what we fucking need right now. And some of you would say, well, that's not going to be good enough. Fuck you. As long as you're selling better than the Wii U console-wise, market-wise, that's an improvement regardless. And the one thing the Wii U, on top of one of the many things that the Wii U lacked that a lot of people don't talk about, is the Wii U lacked something that even the Wii and the GameCube had. And that was Japanese support. Even if we don't get American support, even if we don't get Western third party, we usually always got Japanese third party. You don't believe me? GameCube and Wii got consistent Naruto and Dragon, and I know these aren't the best examples, but you'll see where I'm going with. We got consistent Naruto and Dragon Ball Z games on those consoles. That's insane that when we got to the Wii U, we didn't get anything. I think we got one Piece game that was like a digital download only. We didn't get any of the Raging Blast. We didn't get Xenoverse. We didn't get any of the Storm games. And this is just a small example of the bigger picture. Where was that weird Japanese support that I was looking for? Because the Wii had it. We had Mad World, No More Heroes, Muramasa and the Demon Blade, Tatsunoko versus Capcom, all the Naruto, what were they called? Naruto, Battle Revolution, was that? No, that's Pokemon. I forget what the Clash and Ninja Revolution, maybe that's what it was. It was the Clash and Ninja titles, and even the Dragon Ball Z Budokai games. We got all those. We got all these weird Japanese games, even things like Arc Rise Fantasia that no one ever remembers, but hey, Killing You Dead, folks. Killing You Dead. If you don't know what that's a reference to, I just told you. It's probably one of the funniest fucking lines. I remember when I picked that game up. It was the dumbest shit in the world. Fucking loved it. Fucking Killing You Dead, man. Killing You Dead. Stop. That's the point I'm trying to make. We got a whole bunch of weird and cool Japanese third-party games. And when we went to the Wii U, not only did we not get any Western third-party support, we didn't get any Japanese third-party support. What the fuck? I think Nintendo looked, and that kind of goes into the whole concept of why talks with maybe Borderlands creators or Rocket League's creators. I think that boiled down to a money situation, if I had to guess. Because it's more of a risk to throw their Western games on a Japanese-centric console like the Switch, especially knowing that the Switch is probably going to get a good amount of Japanese support. Nintendo looked at that situation and went, do we want a money hat or do we want to go where what makes the most sense? Because let's be real here. What sells the most on Nintendo consoles? Yeah, I get it. People want to throw their shade about how third-party games don't sell well on Nintendo consoles, but the third-party games that do sell well, a lot of them are Japanese games. Mine is probably the Call of Duties. And the reason why is because Nintendo has a good share of the Japanese market right next to Sony. It lost a good chunk of it when it got to the PlayStation 4 era because there was literally no Japanese games on the system. I think the only Japanese games that we got, or that we even released on the console, was something like Fatal Frame, something like Dragon Quest X, which by the way never got fucking localized. A few of those Taiko Drum Master games. We got barely anything. That's it. And that's insane. I think Nintendo said, which is a bigger priority, Japanese or American? And I think they went with what made the most sense. And some of you would say, well, Western third-party support would be arguably just as important, if not more important. Yeah, but which is the more likely to happen? Are they going to get fucking every Assassin's Creed, every Mass Effect, every fucking Dark Souls game? Or are they going to get every Dragon Ball Z game, every anime game? Let's just use that as a generalization. Some RPGs. That's the shit they need to focus on, because that's more likely. For one, it's an easier sell to. It's cheaper to get those games because developers are a lot more like. And on top of it, you also got to remember, considering the Switch is not a graphically intensive system, it's not on the same like power scale as PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. And in Japanese, if you ever noticed, Japan is not the furthest when it comes to graphical pushing in games. The games that seem to push the most in graphical power are American games for the most part. There are a few exceptions, like American, like franchises that have more of an American feel, like as for example, like Metal Gear, for example. Some people would say Resident Evil. It's kind of hard because if you look at Resident Evil 7, that does not look like a hugely graphically intensive game. And it doesn't have to be. Horror games are like one of the few genres that can get away with being like pretty mediocre in graphics and still be horrifying, because sometimes the mediocre graphics make things horrifying. It's a cheaper option. It's the smarter option. And I think with the Switch, I never expected the Switch to be the PlayStation 4 beast of a Nintendo console. I expected it to be at least I'm expecting it somewhere around GameCube or fucking Wii tier, where I get some games, I get my Nintendo titles, and I get some of the cool Japanese kooky third-party games that I give a fuck about. I don't really give a damn about, and I've said this many times, I don't really give a damn about getting, hell, we're getting Skyrim. I don't really care that we're getting Skyrim, considering, as everyone else is planning to point out, it's on everything else, so if I really wanted to play, I could go play it now. I don't really care about a lot of Western games. But what I care about are my Japanese games, and I've said that since jump. And I think Nia, the video game her, has mentioned this too. You're seeing a lot of 3DS type support, and that's what that to me, that's all you fucking need, because a lot of people think, oh, those niche groups aren't gonna do anything. Bullshit. You get enough niches together, and you got a big ass fucking community of a whole bunch of small sub communities, and because a lot of those communities cross genre with each other, and that you could tell, and you could tell even through the presentation, that was Japanese focused through and through. The Japanese gamer is set, because now I can play my Dragon Ball Z, my Disgaea, my Dragon Quest, my fucking Splatoon, my Mario, and my Zelda, my Bomberman. That shit, they're all niche. But niches is what people need to understand. It's the niche audience that helps the PlayStation 4 fan base out. People don't understand that. People like to act like, oh, the PlayStation 4 has so many exclusives going around, that's why they make so much money. Bullshit. They're the only the one advantage that PlayStation has always had over Xbox is that PlayStation had consistent Japanese support. And that's the main thing that hurts Xbox, that Xbox is for not only not having a good variety in its own games, in its own exclusive titles, but it also inherently neglects a third of their fan base, a third of a potential fan base, where you have the US, Europe, and Japan. They just say fuck Japan. They tried a little bit and then they just kind of gave up on it. That's where Sony kills it. And they've been killing it for a while because they had no real rival in there. The only people who rival Sony in Japan even with the Wii U, Nintendo is Nintendo, because Nintendo was rivaling them with the Wii U that wasn't selling great in Japan, because Nintendo has almost the same, I would say a good amount, almost probably an equal amount of pull in Japan to like Sony. The only thing that hurts Nintendo is that Nintendo doesn't get certain titles. But the Switch may be starting to make up for some lost time. And let's be real here, considering how well the Vita does, and they really, and I highly doubt they're going to be pushing a Vita successor anytime soon, especially with this whole double dipping on 4K resolution and shit. It's possible they could be throwing out a Vita, but considering they have no American support for the Vita, and the Switch is about to steal that Japanese support, because they can announce a new Sony handheld, but the Switch is going to take that Vita support right out the fucking window this for at least a year. At least a motherfucking year. And that's my point. Japanese support, I think, for Nintendo is a lot more important than Western support. I understand Western support is important, but realistically, I also understand that money-wise and what makes sense is Japanese support, because that's where Sony's killing them. That's an area Sony's killing them that they have no business being killed in. Okay, fine, Western games, whatever, gritty games, whatever. You shouldn't be losing in fucking Japan, though. Fuck that. And Splatoon, shit. And some of you would say that Vita audience isn't important, but it's like I said before, you get enough niches together, and you got a big ass fucking community, and that'll be getting Nintendo just through this year. Once the sales kick up from that push of this year, because this year looks beautiful. That's the one thing. And if you notice with the lineup for this year is a good mixture of Nintendo support, a little bit of Western support, but a decent number of Japanese support. And the Japanese support is what they need, because all they really need to do is steal a little bit of that Vita audience, which they're going to do, because the Vita is not going to really hold a candle to it. Especially when you realize there are certain games that some people just want to. The Japanese audience, I bet you it will be Japan that truly carries them this year, and that's all they need. Because if Japan can build up that install base, or overall, and you see the amount that they have, it's like, okay, fine, we've made it. Like if I had to, and this is just a random guess, I would bank that the Switch by the end of this year will probably be at 10 million. That's just a guess. Now, whether I'm right or wrong, we'll find out in fucking January of next year or December. But I have a bet that this console will at least be past 10 million in the first year. I think personally, I just believe Japanese support makes more sense and is more important, because Western support cares a lot about things that the Switch can't really provide in its current form. And I think gamers are a lot more fickle. Gamers are a lot more picky when it comes to in Western. Like, you're not going to get someone to switch from an Xbox One to a Switch. Now, they might own a Switch, but they're not going to just jump from their primary console. And Nintendo's not playing that game. Nintendo's like, look, we need to... The industry with this graphics race doesn't mean shit. Because as we've learned through these last few generations, consoles are becoming more and more like PCs, which makes them less and less important as consoles and makes you wonder, why the fuck am I buying a console? Nintendo's like, we're about making games and about having fun, but we also want to create an experience for the player that only we can make. You ain't getting that with no pseudo PC console. So, let's do something that PCs can never do, at least not for a decent amount of while. And that's put console games on the go. Because I think they realized that the Vita had an idea going, but Sony just kind of fucked it up. And they're like, you know what? Sony, you had something. We're gonna take this ball from you, and we're gonna run out, and we're gonna see how this goes. And I think that's what they're gonna do. So I think the Japanese support is gonna mean a lot more in the long run than the Western. The Western may hurt in the beginning, and I'm fully expecting that. But for me, I didn't expect it to have a lot of Western support, and two, the Japanese support to me is more important because Nintendo is working on regaining its roots. Kind of what they needed to do with the Wii U that they didn't really get to do. It seems like they're trying to go back to the roots for reals. And now that they have a concept and a fucking machine that they can really push the right way from jump, it's a lot more likely. So I think the Switch is a more true first-party effort versus the half-ass effort that felt like the Wii U's launch in a lot of ways. But please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. This has been the Insane Game Freak. Life's a game, play to win. And I will catch you guys later. Peace. Oh.